Cool, 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 cool. Cool, cool, cool. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. You're with me, Kevin Wright, on the Kevin Wright Show. I've been talking to my friends who are talented artists about getting paid for your talent. It's a crazy topic. It's one of those things where we've all had this dream. We've all had this idea that what if we can make a living off of that thing that we love to do and that thing that we found that we were talented at? You know, what if you could get paid for your talent? It's tough. It's tough. And I think there's a lot of different, when it comes to motivation on how to do this, on how to get paid for your talent, how to get paid for your artistic talent. I think there's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different coaching, a lot of different motivational factors. And so I've been in this conversation with a lot of friends, filmmakers, painters, musicians, artists all across the board, and I'm getting a ton of different feedback. My research is showing a bunch of different things on how this works, on how to carve out a career for yourself as an artist, on how to figure out what your talent is and how to get paid for it. There's a lot of people who think they know how to do this for you, but I'm finding that it happens in 1,000 different ways. But there are some things in common. There are some things that unite a lot of successful, well-paid, talented artists. First, let's just talk about talent for a second. Talent comes in many shapes and sizes, many different forms, but it just looks different and it feels different from case to case. Some talent is just so straightforward, right? Some talent is so straightforward. Somebody has the skill and ability to put the pen or the pencil onto a blank canvas and produce an image, draw an image, sketch an image that a lot of other people can't do. There's like this talent, and maybe there's some training that went into it and some experience that goes into it, but a lot of times it's an innate talent. People who can paint paintings, people who can illustrate, the same thing. People who can pick up any instrument and play that instrument, write songs, write music, make a piano or a guitar sound beautiful. That talent is so obvious to us. And we all respect that talent, and a lot of the world looks at that talent as very important. But talent looks different sometimes. Take acting, for example. Take acting, take podcasts. We're on a podcast today. There are some actors who are clearly not as talented as other actors, but they get paid more and they get more jobs and they get more fan appeal because of their energy on camera, because of their screen presence. You can have one actor who never wins the Academy Award, who's never going to be recognized for the craft of acting, like a Daniel Day-Lewis, who's nominated every single time, who's considered the best actor that's ever lived. But there's other actors, men and women, who show up on camera and are much more loved, have a broader appeal than Daniel Day-Lewis. Not because they're finer at the craft, not because they're more talented at acting, but because on camera, they bring an energy. Sometimes the best way to describe talent is as an energy. Sometimes your talent is your energy. It's the energy you bring to a conversation. It's the energy you bring to leadership. It's the energy you bring to coaching. It's the energy you bring into the office. You can get paid for that. So talent looks different, comes across different in many ways. The question is, how do you get paid for your talent? I think another thing that we have to discuss in this is, how do you figure out what you're good at? How do you figure out what you like to do? I was listening to a myriad of graduation speeches, motivational speeches the other day. People who are trying to encourage the next class of college students, the next class of high schoolers, the next class of undergraduates in the future. And the one thing that I found that keeps coming up is that great encouragement to figure out what you want to do. Figure out what you're all about. Figure out what you like. God, that's tough. In the pursuit of getting paid for your talent, in the pursuit of getting paid for your art, in that dream world, we don't get coached and we don't get taught enough to figure out what you like. I remember growing up in high school, and the thing that was always told to me was, be very good at math, get great grades in math. They didn't even talk about writing. There wasn't that much about the other skills. Sports were capitalized on. I was very good at sports, and I got a lot of praise for that. But the one thing that people just kept pounding into me is be good at math. There are some talented mathematicians out there, don't get me wrong. But none of my coaches, none of my guidance counselors, none of my teachers ever focused on, let's take some time to figure out what these kids like. What do you like? What are your passions? Or helping you kind of get into a development phase where you can start figuring out what your passions are. That is so undervalued in today's society. Figure out what you like. And also, that's a difficult challenge. That's a super difficult challenge. When you ask somebody what they like, a lot of people don't know. I think there's a small percentage of society who is gifted to know themselves, who has kind of that know thyself gifting, and they are able to identify what food they like, what movies they like, identify what traditions they like. They just get it. It just clicks. They're these know thyself type people. I call it a gift, and I'm very impressed by it. But most of us, the rest of us, the larger percentage, the 90%, have to take a long time of life experience and trial and error to figure out what we like, who we like to be around. And I think in the pursuit of getting paid for your artistic talent, you've also got to dial in what you like and what you don't like. What you like and what you don't like. What kind of music you're into. What kind of people you're into. What kind of movies you're into. What kind of art you follow. What kind of art makes you feel something. Getting paid for your talent, getting paid as a performer. Man, you got to figure out what you like. And that's tough. That's a tough thing. Some of us are so busy paying the bills, raising children, doing the things that we're supposed to do, doing the things that we were told to do, doing the things that people put pressure on us to do and to figure out. We never got that chance to figure out what we like. God, that's tough. That's tough. One of the best ways, a tip here, one of the best ways to figure out what you like and what you're into and what makes you happy and what makes you feel is to ask the good voices around you. Interview the people around you, and they will start sharing with you openly and honestly, the people that you trust, the voices that you like, your best friends. They will start telling you, it seems like you like this. It seems like even though you don't know it, you're into this. It seems like you gravitate toward this. What good advice it is to the next generation. What good motivating advice it is to help people figure out what they like. What do you like? Ask your friends that. Ask the people around you. Keep that conversation going. I think it's important. I think that's an important piece in getting paid for your artistic talent. Another factor that keeps coming up in our conversations with these artist friends that I've been talking to is not just what the look of talent is, not all the different categories of talent, not figuring out who you are and what you like, but how hard you're willing to work. How hard you're willing to work to get paid for your talent. There are many talented people who are not accessing their art because they are feeling stuck in their cubicle job. They're feeling stuck in the things that they're working on. They're feeling stuck in the day-to-day 9-to-5 grind of paying the bills. How hard are you willing to work and grind at your talent? How hard are you willing to work at your talent? How hard are you willing to grind to make it happen? I think one of the things, if you want to get paid for your talent, for your art, you've got to desire that goal as much as you desire breathing air. Almost that feeling of, I think I will die if I don't attain this goal. I think that's where it's got to be. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who get noticed and who get discovered for their talent and for their art in a sense like winning the lottery. They didn't grind. They didn't put in the hard work that a lot of other people are putting in, but they got discovered and they got paid off. The majority of talented people are going to need to work their asses off and want it really bad and put an insane amount of content out there in the world. That's what the hard work's all about. Think about how many talented people are. Take a quick scan on YouTube. Take a quick scan in any search engine. Talented piano player, guitar player, writer, filmmaker. Look up short films. Look up painters. The internet, the world now in its communication technology is flooded with clear examples of talent. The thing that's going to set somebody ahead of that flooding hobby talents and get somebody into the paid market is going to be that they work harder and put out more content. That's just all there is to it. Now you got to have the talent, you got to have that gift, you got to have that special thing. But what's going to set people apart, most people, there are those lucky ones, but most people is going to be how much content you put out there. How much hard work you put into it. I spoke to a stand-up comedian the other day who's just getting started, moved to the big city, couldn't really make it in the small town that we grew up in, moved to the big city, and he is working gigs for $25 a night. He's getting paid $25 a night with beer, but he's trying to put out as much content as he can, trying to expose his talent to as many people as he can, and it's hard work, and it's annoying work, and it's grinding work, and it's work that's constantly full of criticism. But the way he's going to make it is if he puts out a wild amount of content, a continual flood of content, hard work and grinding. And he's got to feel that sense of, I will die if I don't attain this goal. If I can't, live in my talent and get paid and focus on this. And by the way, a side note on that classic thing that's being talked about right now is we're not all supposed to get paid for artistic talent. Probably the society and economy wouldn't work. It's not going to happen for everybody. But it can happen if you have the talent and you grind and you have that desire. You're starting to feel that crazy motivation in you that says, I will die if I can't manifest this lifestyle that I've dreamed of. That's a wild thing. And I think that's what separates talented people from talented people who get paid. Minus the outliers, minus the lottery winners. That hard worker, that grinding effort. Flooding the market, flooding a talented market with your talent. Putting enough out there and speaking enough about it and just constantly doing it. A lot of motivational speakers will tell you, while everyone else is sleeping, you got to be filling up that void with talent. You got to be filling up that void with content. You got to be honing in your craft, letting the world know what you got. Show me what you got. That's a Rick and Morty reference. So who's going to do it? That's what I keep asking myself. That's what I keep asking the people around me. Who's going to do it? How are they going to do it? It is a grind. But I think we're seeing now those who are willing to do that grind and constantly stay at it and focus on their craft and desire it and want it so badly that it's almost an obsessive way. That's a great thing to think about. Do you obsess over it? Sometimes people say obsession isn't healthy, but to attain this goal, it's the only way to go. Do you obsess about your goal? The greats in our world always did. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, these guys, some people have described them as personality disorders, something that they've never encountered before, an anomaly in personality. These people put in practice when everyone else was sleeping. These people flooded the world with their content. They put so many hours into their craft that people couldn't help but notice, and it paid off and it showed. Their personality was obsessive about their craft, about their talent. So I guess the final question is, in getting paid for your talent and in your art, is are you willing to be obsessive about it? And can you build that obsession? I think that's the final question. Can you get somebody to the point where they are just obsessed with their goal? I think it does happen. I think you could take somebody who is casual and who has kind of a take it or leave it view of what they're good at, and that desire for it can be built. Maybe they get a little feedback that's good, and it builds that desire a little bit more. Maybe they get a crowd around them that's willing to support them, friends, family, some contributors, some donors, some people who are going to pay on a regular basis, and it builds that obsession. It builds that thirst to see their goal accomplished. I think it can be built, and that to me is one of the most encouraging things. Because you talk to most people who want to get paid for their art, and they're going to tell you, I just don't have that obsessive feeling. Like I want to go smell the roses. I want to go to the beach, and I want to experience the world, and I want to travel, and I want to do these things that if I obsessed over my craft, it would take away from. And so there's a little bit of sadness. I don't know if I could get to that point of obsession. I'm here to tell you that you can build it. You can do things to play into that mindset. You can build more of a want and desire to accomplish your goal of being a paid artist. That hunger can grow. That hunger can grow. And there's a number of different action steps. I think one of them is just the simplest thing of meditating on your goal before you fall asleep every night. Take a few moments as you're closing your eyes and envision yourself in that place you want to be. Get into that practice every single night. It will become a habit. Just as you're falling asleep, it will actually help you fall asleep sometimes. Deep breathing and telling yourself, I want this, I want to do this, these are my intentions. That thing before bed, it kind of sets the whole cycle for you. That will help build your obsession. Constantly practicing your craft will help build your obsession. You'll see yourself getting better at it. Not only getting better at your art, but also getting better at managing your time. Constantly practicing those sort of things. You can build that obsession. I've seen it happen. I've seen people get into it. Getting paid for your art and your talent. Getting motivated in that thing that you think or that you know you're good at. In review, we're just talking about knowing what your talent is, knowing what you like, knowing what you love in this life, knowing what you're into, and then how hard you're willing to grind to make that talent manifest itself in this world, how hard you're willing to work at it. How bad do you want it? If you don't want it to the place where it feels like life to you, you don't want it enough. Because there's so many other people out there who want it that bad and who are flooding the market with their content and talent. And you have to compete with that. I have to compete with that. My talent, I've got a few things that I'm good at. I've taught myself to be good at building furniture. I started as a hobby, and I started selling some and making a small name for myself in that. It's not my number one thing. I think my number one thing in talent, and that, by the way, that's an example of learning to be good at something. I wasn't innately a furniture designer. I wasn't skilled at it. It took me tons of trial and error, made a ton of mistakes, and I had to copy and watch and learn from a ton of different people, mimicry, and then I could begin to be creative on my own and learn how furniture and structure and design works. That's one area where a talent can kind of come out of nowhere, and it's not one of those innate natural things. But my real talent, I think, is I'm a host. I have a good energy. I get asked to be MCs. I get asked to host events, do interviews. My talent is being a host and engaging people and bringing them out of their shell and interviewing. In order for me to do that full time, I've got to do it more. I've got to put myself out there and show that I can do that. So I'm right there with you. I'm in that struggle and in that battle with you of motivation and how are we going to take it? And I'm asking myself, how bad do I want it? How bad do I want to do this thing? That question has to come up all the time. We're going to continue this series, this podcast on talent, getting paid for your talent, what our world looks like, and is that even available? Is that even a goal that people can work toward? We're going to continue that. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. Check me out at thekevinwrightshow.com, always on YouTube, and have a good one.